story centers around a man who became the prime suspect in one of the most infamous criminal cases in Hong Kong and Macau during the 1980s. The case known as the 8 Immortals Restaurant Massacre involved the disappearance of 10 members of a single family, all of whom were later suspected to have been murdered and dismembered. The man at the center of this mystery was named Huang Ziheng, though he had previously lived under a different identity. Huang Ziheng was born in 1935 in Guangdong and originally went by the name Cheng Ziyang. He came from a wealthy background but eventually moved to Hong Kong, where he developed a criminal history. In 1973, he committed a violent crime that led to imprisonment. After his release, he married a woman surnamed Huang and had 3 children with her. However, his past continued to follow him, and he eventually fled to Macau after further complications involving a romantic relationship with another woman. In Macau, Huang Ziheng became associated with the 8 Immortals restaurant, which was owned by a man named Zong Lin. Zong ran the restaurant along with his wife Cheng Hui and several other family members, including their 4 daughters, 1 son, and various relatives. Huang reportedly formed a gambling relationship with Zong and his family, often playing games together at the restaurant. During one such session in 1984, Huang won a significant amount of money, about 180,000 Macanese tokens. Zong promised to repay the debt within a year, offering the restaurant as collateral if necessary. Over the following year, Huang repeatedly attempted to collect on this debt, but Zong refused each time. On the night of August 4, 1985, Huang returned to the restaurant once again to demand payment. This time, Zong not only refused, but also insulted Huang, leading to a heated argument. In a fit of rage, Huang grabbed an empty beer bottle, shattered the bottom, and used it as a weapon. He then took Zong's youngest son hostage, effectively paralyzing the rest of the family, who were too afraid to act while a child was in danger. Using this leverage, Huang ordered the remaining family members to bind themselves. When only Jin's wife and son remained free, Huang instructed the mother to tie up her own son first before he would take control of her. However, out of maternal instinct, she instead grabbed her son and screamed, provoking Huang into fatally stabbing her in the neck. Once she was dead, Huang proceeded to kill the remaining bound individuals either by stabbing or strangling them. One of the last victims was Zong's son, who before dying warned Huang that Zong's aunt, referred to as the 9th auntie, would report the incident to the police.
The next day, Huang visited the 9th auntie's home under false pretenses and lured her back to the restaurant, where he killed her as well.
With all 10 family members eliminated, Huang spent the next 8 hours dismembering their bodies. Some body parts were wrapped in black garbage bags and discarded, while others were allegedly cooked and sold as pork buns at the restaurant itself. Despite the horror of what had transpired, the crime did not come to light immediately. It wasn't until August 8, 1985, when beachgoers near Black Sand Beach in Macau noticed human hands and feet floating in the sea. Over the following days, more body parts surfaced, totaling 11 limbs. These limbs were found to be consistent in decomposition levels and cut marks, indicating they belonged to the same group of victims. However, due to limited forensic technology at the time, little progress was made in identifying the victims or solving the case. It wasn't until April 1986, 8 months after the initial discovery, that the case gained new momentum. A letter arrived at the Macau Police Department from a man claiming to be the younger brother of Zong Lin. He reported that his brother and his entire family had disappeared in August 1985, and that the restaurant had since been transferred to Huang Ziheng. This information raised suspicions, and investigators began to connect the missing family to the body parts found earlier in the sea. When approached by the police, Huang denied any involvement. He claimed that Zong had simply decided to move abroad and had sold him the restaurant legally. His explanation seemed plausible at first, especially because he had not fled the area and continued operating the business openly. However, inconsistencies in his statements and the discovery of personal belongings belonging to the Zong family, including passports, birth certificates, and school records, cast serious doubt on his innocence. Further investigation revealed that a meat supplier had delivered goods to the restaurant on August 4, 1985, the same day the murders were believed to have occurred. The next day, the restaurant was closed with a notice stating it would be shut for 3 days. When the supplier tried to contact Zong directly, it was Huang who answered the door, suggesting that Zong had already been eliminated by that point. Additionally, a neighbor of Zong's 9th aunt recalled seeing a man in his early 30s visit her house late at night on August 5, claiming that 2 of Zong's children were sick and needed her help. She left with him in a taxi and was never seen again. However, Huang was nearly 50 years old at the time, making this account inconsistent with the description provided by the witness. This discrepancy suggested that there may have been an accomplice involved in the crimes, although no such person was ever identified. By October 1986, Huang was formally charged with the murders. While in prison, he faced hostility from fellow inmates and was even hospitalized after being severely beaten. Despite multiple suicide attempts, he initially survived, but on December 4, 1986, he successfully ended his life using a soda can tap to slit his wrists. Before his death, he sent a letter to a newspaper denying his guilt and claiming that he had reformed after his previous conviction. He also expressed concern for his deceased wife and young daughter, urging the public not to punish them for his actions. Years later, a former cellmate of Huang's revealed details that Huang had supposedly shared with him while in jail. According to this account, the killings were spontaneous, triggered by frustration over unpaid debts rather than premeditated malice. However, many questions remain unanswered. For instance, how could one man alone overpower and restrain 9 adults? How could he cleanly dispose of so much blood and dismember 10 bodies within 8 hours? Furthermore, the discrepancy regarding the identity of the man who picked up Jin's and raises doubts about whether Huang acted alone. Although the official narrative points to Huang as the sole perpetrator, the lack of concrete evidence and the presence of conflicting testimonies leave room for speculation. The truth behind the 8 Immortals restaurant massacre remains partially shrouded in mystery, with some aspects of the case likely never to be fully resolved.